Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling, well, a really complex topic. Biblical prophecy, the end times, eschatology.
It's definitely a challenging area, and our focus today is getting past maybe what feels comfortable,
Right, to really look for the truth in the source material, not just what we might want to believe.
Exactly.
So the book of Revelation, or sources often break it down, right? Chapter 1 is what John saw.
The vision of Christ.
Then chapters 2 and 3, the letters to the churches. That's the what is now part, for John's time at least.
And then chapter 4 onwards. That's the what will take place later, the future stuff.
And there's a general sequence most agree on, isn't there? Like, we're in the church age.
Correct. Then comes the Great Tribulation, Jesus' return, the millennium.
And the final judgment, the great white throne. That basic flow seems pretty widely accepted.
It is. But the big point of contention, the first hurdle, really, is how people leave before the tribulation.
You mean the rapture?
Yes. But here's the thing that surprises many people. The actual word rapture, it's just not in the Bible.
Not there. So where did this whole pre-tribulation escape idea come from then? They needed a system, right?
It absolutely did. And that system, that theological framework, has a name. Dispensationalism. We have to trace it back to that.
Okay, dispensationalism. Let's unpack that. This wasn't a minor tweak, was it? It really shifted how lots of people saw the Bible and the future.
Oh, fundamentally. It mostly originated back in the 18th century. John Nelson Darby, an English theologian.
Darby, yeah, I've heard the name.
He was key. But it really, really spread like wildfire in America, mainly through things like the Scofield Reference Bible.
Ah, the Scofield Bible. That put notes right in the margins, didn't it?
Yeah.
Made the interpretation very accessible.
Hugely influential. And it got embedded in major seminaries, too. So dispensationalism has some core ideas that make it distinct.
What are the main ones?
Well, first, a really, really strong insistence on literal interpretation, especially prophecy. Maybe overly literal sometimes.
Okay, literalism. What else?
Second, and this is crucial, a sharp separation between Old Testament Israel and the New Testament church. Like two distinct peoples of God with different plans.
And that separation, that's what allows for the pre-tribulation rapture idea, isn't it?
Exactly. Because if the tribulation, that 7-year period, is primarily about Israel, then the church being it has to be removed before that period starts.
So that's where the idea comes from. It leads to needing the church gone first.
Which then leads to the idea of a secret rapture before the tribulation, and then Christ's later public return, sort of a two-stage coming.
Where do they pinpoint this in Revelation? Is there a specific verse?
The key one often cited is Revelation 4, verse 1. John hears a voice, "Come up here."
Come up here. And they take that single command to John.
And interpret it symbolically as the moment the entire church is raptured, taken up to heaven before all the judgments in the following chapters begin.
But couldn't that just be, well, God telling John, the guy writing the book, to come up and see what happens next?
That's the more straightforward reading, most would argue. It's an invitation for the prophet John to receive the vision of the future, not necessarily a hidden prophecy about the whole church vanishing.
So mistaking a literary instruction for a universal event.
That seems to be the core issue with that specific interpretation.
And this push for strict literalism, it can cause problems with prophecy, can't it? Because prophecy uses so much symbolism.
It really can. How do you literally interpret, say, the beast with 10 horns and 7 heads? Or the 144,000, is that an exact number? Or symbolic of completeness?
Or discussions about rebuilding a literal third temple in Jerusalem. Insisting on literalism everywhere can sometimes obscure the bigger picture, the main message.
Definitely. And this specific way of reading the end times, dispensational premillennialism, it hasn't just stayed in books. It's had real-world effects.
Like what kind of effects?
Well, you see instances where focusing so much on escaping the future leads people to neglect the present, sometimes disastrously.
You mean like date-setting groups? I remember hearing about the Demi mission in '92.
Yeah, that's a prime example. People sold homes, quit jobs, all based on a predicted date. Or, more recently, situations like the Grace Road Church, where followers faced abuse while being told to essentially abandon their current lives for a future promise.
That's the real danger, isn't it? This focus on maybe a comfortable escape hatch.
Yeah.
It can make believers less focused on their actual calling right now.
Yes, less focused on being witnesses, on living out their faith in the world as it is, because the emphasis shifts entirely to waiting for an exit.
It reminds me of that analogy. The frog in the pot.
The frog in the gradually boiling water, exactly. It gets comfortable, thinks the warmth is nice.
Until it's too late. It deceives itself because the immediate feeling is okay.
And that's the risk theologically. If you only look for the interpretation that makes you feel safe or comfortable, you might miss the actual truth, the harder truth perhaps, that calls you to engage now.
So the takeaway here for you listening,
Yeah.
when you dive into these deep theological waters, especially something as complex as end times,
The goal has to be seeking the genuine facts, the truth as revealed in the text itself, even if it's not the easiest or the most comforting interpretation.
right, prioritize truth over comfort.
Hmm.
So here's a final thought to leave you with.
Hmm.
If the Bible consistently calls believers to be salt and light in the world, right here, right now,
Hmm.
what present duty, what act of service or witness might you be overlooking because you're perhaps too focused on calculating or anticipating a future escape?
That's a powerful question to reflect on. What are we called to do today?
Something to think about. Join us next time for another deep dive.